Hello everybody, welcome back to NORAB Outdoors. Thank you for clicking on this video. Today we're going to talk about char cloth. Why you would need it, what you'd use it for, but most importantly, how to make it. Char cloth is really good in starting fires. If you're going to use a ferro rod or flint or something, and you need something to hold a spark or hold an ember so that you can start a fire. That's what you'd use char cloth for. And what I mean by holding ember is, let me show you this. All right, so the first thing I'd want to do is get me a piece of char cloth. So here's my char cloth. Get a little piece of it here. So about that much should be good. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to strike it with just a ferro rod. Right, there we go. So as you can see, I got an ember there. See that ember? Whew, a little warm. So what I'd do with that char cloth is I would take it and I'd put it in a tinder bundle, either a bird's nest, which you take grass, or wild grass is the best. You take it and you wad it up like paper. You get it real fibrous. You use your thumbs to create a little bird's nest. So you can take that char cloth that's holding that ember and stick it in there and blow on it to get a fire started. So what is char cloth and how do you make it? So char cloth is basically what you just saw. It's a piece of cotton. I like to use jeans. Like I cut up an old pair of jeans, and like with these, you can go to a secondhand store anywhere and pick up a pair of jeans for a couple of bucks. And it could be child's jeans, it could be women's jeans, men's jeans, big jeans, little jeans, it doesn't matter. Just so you get some denim. You take the denim, I cut it into strips like this, then I take it, and this is my char tin that I make my char. It's something like this, and I got these off Amazon really cheap. There'll be a link in the description on where you get these. I got like 10 of them for just a couple of bucks. And so what I do is I take my denim and I fold it up in my char tin, like this. Just get it down in there. And then you got it in your char tin. Then you want to make sure that there's a hole in the top of your char tin. Now what you can do now is you can either take this and put it in a fire, the coals of a campfire, or a fireplace, or any place that has like coals. What I like to do is, we grill out a lot here, and I like to take this, and when I'm cooking steaks, and I'll do make my char cloth while I'm cooking the steaks. I'll show you how I do that. All right, so I've got my grill here, smoking, warming up, getting ready I'm going to put the steaks on, about 300 degrees or so. And I will use this one side here, and I take my char cloth tin, and I'll just sit it right there on the fire. Now one thing you're going to notice is the smoke's going to start coming out of the top of that hole there, and then it will move to a flame. All right, so there's my steaks that I'm going to use I'm going to cook today. So if you look, my char tin is right here. I'm not going to put steaks over this. For one, I mean, it would work just fine, but I want the juices off my steak dripping down on my box and getting it all mucky. So put these right here. So that way that they're away from my char tin, that where I'm making my char cloth, and I won't get all the goop dripping down in the oils from the steak and the fat and drip down in there and messing up my tin. Now if you'll look down there, you can see that my char tin is starting to smoke. So you'll see smoke coming out of that hole, and then eventually you'll see a little flame come out of there. There's my camping buddy right there. Hey Chloe, you wanna go camping? Huh? You wanna go? You wanna go outside? Huh? Come here. Come here. Yeah, so this is my camping buddy right here, Chloe. She's full grown. She's Jack Russell and Chihuahua. So her mommy was a Jack Russell and her daddy was a Chihuahua. So she's Jack Wawa. So she's she's got a really good story. And one of these days I'll tell you what her story is, but I like her to take her camping with me. She loves the outdoors, and she also makes a great heater because she likes to get in my sleeping bag and snuggle with me when it's cold. Isn't that right, girl? Isn't that right, girl? Mm-hmm. So as you see, it's the some of the grit on the outside of the box will actually catch fire, but you see the flame coming out of the hole there. That's perfectly normal for that to happen, and I'm going to let it sit in there for just a little bit longer. Usually this doesn't take more than 10 or 15 minutes, and sometimes that's a little bit too long depending on the heat of your coals. So after I make my char cloth, I like to put it in a fresh tin like this. So for one, the other tin is all black and sooty and gritty, and it gets it'll get my my tinder bag. This is my tinder bag, my fire starter bag right here. This is what I take with me, and I keep some dry wood in there. And of course I got my fire steel. A couple of videos ago I was starting a fire with my fire steel, and my fire steel snapped, and it was one just like this. It was the same brand, and I've never really had any problems with this, and I don't know if I just got a weak one or what it was, but as I was striking it, and it was on video, as I was striking it, I think it was on my clearing the land for the winter bushcraft camp. So as I struck down on this, it just snapped, and I ended up I got a spark when it snapped, which was really good, but it didn't. I was more worried about this had snapped, and I didn't get my other kindling on there in time, so I ended up using a lighter. But that happens from time to time. So, but I've really never had any problems with this. It's a little harder than I would like, as far as it's not as I like the softer ones. They throw more sparks. This right here being it's just a little bit too hard. It doesn't throw as many sparks. So but I like the striker. I do use this striker a lot. I have used my knife on it, but I would prefer to use the striker that came with it. One thing when you get a new striker, a new ferro rod, if it's black like this, see that black, you want to scrape the coating off of it to get down to the shiny stuff. If you don't, then if you're just striking on the black stuff, you're not going to get a spark. When you get down here on the shiny stuff, so as you see, it doesn't throw as much sparks as I would like for it to. But another thing you can do with your ferro rod is if your tinder's really wet and you're looking to, so you got tinder, and then you have your kindling, and then your firewood. So your tinder is what you're using to start the fire with. If it's wet or you're having a hard time starting it because it's a little greener than you'd like or whatever, what you can do is you can take your striker or the back of your knife, and without striking it, you can actually scrape some of that ferrule material off and then strike it. You see that? So it just gives you, and you may have to do it a couple of times. I've had to do it, a few times before. But you just, you scrape that and then strike it. And those sparks are burning at about 3,000 degrees, so it's pretty hot. And so when you scrape your ferro rod, you give it a better chance of starting. Now, I would not use that on char cloth or char material, just because char cloth is really great. It holds an ember for a short amount of time, but it will burn as fuel really quick. So usually you can just strike 1 or 2 times with your ferro rod and get your char cloth going. As you can see, my char tin has stopped smoking and the flame is not coming out anymore. Actually, I'm going to set that on the ground, and it's really going to be hot, so I'm going to let this cool down. So while my tin is cooling off, we're going to talk about some other material that you can use to make char cloth. Let me adjust that. So you can use cotton balls or makeup pads, cotton pads for makeup. You can use rope, which is one thing that I have done before is I've created char rope. This came off an old dog toy, and I took this and cut it up and made some, and charred the rope just like I do the denim, and it works fairly well. Not nearly as well as the denim, but it works. I've also seen people, instead of making char cloth, what they'll do is they'll take like cotton balls or cotton pads or some sort of cotton, even denim, and they'll rub them down with Vaseline, and then put them like in a Ziploc baggie, and let them sit there and let that material, the denim or the rope or the cotton balls, the cotton material, whatever it is, actually soak up that petroleum jelly, Vaseline, and then you can take it. Once you strike it, it actually burns for quite a while, so it works really good. The last time I did it is I have a vacuum sealer, and I took some cotton balls and saturated it with petroleum jelly, and then put it in the bag and vacuum sealed it down, and just set it up on the shelf. And it stayed up there for a few weeks until I decided, I thought, well, I'm going to take it out and try it, and it worked really well. So, but generally just put it in a Ziploc baggie and zipped it up, letting it set, will work just fine. And again, that really works well if you have wet timber, or if you have green tinder. It works really well because it holds a flame for an extended period of time, and it's really easy to make, really cost effective. It's not that expensive. So here's my char tin, and it's cooled down. It took about 5 minutes, not long, but as you can see now, the material inside has now turned to char cloth, and we'll use a piece of it and I'll show you. So now here's my tin. So you just take a little piece of this char cloth, and I'm just going to pull just a little bit off of it. It tears fairly easy. And then I'm going to take my ferro rod and strike it. And I have see that? So it works really well. So by no means am I an expert at starting fires. I'll be the first to admit I've had a ton of failures. I've had some successes and some failures too. Don't get discouraged if you have a hard time starting a fire, especially when you're just getting started. I mean, there's times I would take it and just strike, and I end up just getting a lighter, lighting it up. So it takes some practice, and one of the best places to practice is just go out on your porch. You know, I wouldn't do it in the grass, but find your porch if you don't have if you don't have a place where you can go, get an old piece of wood or something that you know that's not going to burn, or that you can put out with a cup of water or something, and just practice starting a fire. Another thing that's really good is fat wood. You can get this off of Amazon, this fat wood right here, and you get 2 baggies just like this. It's fat wood in them, and I'll put a link to that in the description. And it's just it's fat wood. It's real resinous wood, and it burns real good. It's easy to light. You can scrape it and make curls with it. I like to, if I'm out and I find some fat wood, a lot of times I'll cut some up and just put it in my tinder bag, so I can keep my tinder bag with me. I keep it in my tinder bag, and I bought that just to kind of see what kind of quality it was, and I was really impressed with it. I was going to take that with me. I just did a 2-day 2-night trip, and I was out working on the winter bushcraft camp, and I was going to take that, and I forgot. I left it sitting on my desk. But luckily I had some wood there that I had cut previously that had some really good fat wood in it, and I was able to split it down and get some fat wood out of it, and I showed that in that video. And so if you get a chance, check that video out. I'll have either a link in the description, or there'll be a link up here somewhere to that video. If I may get this one up first, but I don't know, because I got back yesterday from that trip. But I just really wanted to go over making char cloth, the uses for it, how easy it is to make. Again, I like to just make it on the grill at home. I have made it on the campfire, out in the bush or out in the woods. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe. Thanks again for clicking on it, and I appreciate it. Also, leave your comments if you have other ways of making char cloth, other material to use, or better ways. Please let me know in the comments. But thanks again for watching, and you'll have a great evening.